Good morning, everybody. This is Jeanette, and I want to welcome you to our third session in our project management series. Previously, we talked about setup and we talked about documents. Today, we're going to focus on all the options that you have under contract control, which deals with change management, basically in the project management module. So for our agenda today, and before I actually go over this, I want to remind you that there is a PowerPoint and a document that's attached to the meeting invitation that you received. If you could have the Word document printed out, it's 22 pages, and we're pretty much going to be following that along so that you can take notes on that as we go. All right. So we're going to start when we jump into the software. We're going to do a little bit of review. I want to jump into the PJ settings and just look at the screens that pertain to change management. Make sure that you understand what your options are there. Then we're going to take a look at setting up a job in project management, but again, only pertaining to the change management areas so that you can be efficient when you're setting up change requests or change orders. Some of that information can be pre-filled for you, and I just want to make sure that you know where that information is. We are going to cover some of the tasks inside project management under contract control. I'm going to show you that the estimate screen looks exactly the same as the one in job cost. I'm going to show you accessing a contract within project management. It actually brings up the CN module. We're going to take a look at miscellaneous worksheets. One worksheet in particular, as far as getting a contract amount into a non-contract job through project management. So we'll take a look at that. We're going to review the commitment entry. We'll do it through project management, which actually brings up the job cost screen. So if you're familiar with that particular task in JC, you should be okay with entering commitments through project management. After that, we're going to take a look at change requests for both an owner change, an estimate change, and a commitment change. And then we'll take a look at bringing those change requests into an actual change order or a commitment change order, or simply bypassing the change requests and going directly to a change order itself, which you have the capability of doing that. Change requests are not mandatory, but they're useful from a documentation standpoint so that you can track who's asking for the changes and what's been approved as a request that can then be turned into a change order. All right, so before we look at setting up a job, we're actually going to jump back and forth here in the software. I'm going to go ahead and bring up project management, and we're going to take a look. This is at the top of page 1 in your document, your Word document. Under Company Settings, under PJ Settings, I want to make sure that you are familiar with the Change Management tab here. All of the crystal reports that Sage provides that will be printed through project management are listed here. So when you do a change request or a change order, it will actually pull the design from here. You can use your Browse button if you want to use a different form, or if you've created a custom form that you want to use instead, you need to go ahead and lock that in here on this Change Management tab. There's also a checkbox for the commitment change order if you want to assign the commitment item automatically. You can check this box. And then underneath that, this is for lump sum pricing. You can lock in the categories that you want to assign your estimates to, so that you don't actually have to fill those in when you're entering the change order or the change request. If you pull in something that is labor cost or material cost, you don't have to have the category field on the grid. It will actually come back here and pull the default category for you. All right, so this tab in PJ Settings is important if you have any questions about the forms or one area of default that you can pull in. Now, as far as setting up a job, within project management, you need to make sure that you've got the information set up inside inside project management under setup job to get to some of these fields. These things are not available in JC when you go in and create a job. You need to come back into project management or initially create the job in project management in order to see the change management options where you can lock in recipients that are going to receive the change request or the change order. We can also add markups and add-ons and tax calculations to the change management grid, and those things will be pulled in automatically when you start doing the change requests or the change orders. We can also lock in job spec sections. If you have those set up on the job, we can pull those onto the change order or the change request. So what I'm talking about here, the information for this is, again, under Setup Job. And I'm just going to pull in, one of the jobs that I've set up for our class. And what we're talking about here, one area that you want to maybe fill in are your job contacts so that you can pull them in without having to search through address book to find them. You can actually lock them in on the job itself. You can also create job distribution lists, again, that you can pull in on the change forms, change requests or change orders. The spec sections, this is where you lock in the spec sections for this particular job, and you can pull in these numbers on the different forms as well. Under scope and document, if you have some text that you want to enter in, as far as the job is concerned, we can pull that in. Mostly though, what I need to show you here is our change management tab. The scope documents has more to do with your submittals and your RFIs and just some text. Under change management, here's where you can lock in who you want to send your change request to, who you want to send your change order to. And we'll just go ahead and put me in there again. And again, these will pre-fill as you start filling in the forms. And if the same person receives the change orders and the same person is issuing the change orders, you can lock in the from person as well. Now up here in the grid, we have a couple of different, this is on page 2 in your handout. We can assign different types of markups and add-ons and taxes simply by using the drop down here to tell it what you want to add to the change order or the change request. Now I've gone ahead and added a markup fee. I'm going to mark up the price change that I'm doing by 10%, and I'm going to mark up the cost by 5%. Now I've checkboxed the items that I want to do the markup on. I'm only going to mark up the labor, actually. So this is going to come in when we look at the change request and the change order form. You're going to see at the bottom of the screen that this markup fee has been added, as well as this admin fee that I've pulled in that I'm going to charge $100 for. So, excuse me. I'm going to add $100 to the owner, and then for the estimates, on the estimate side, I've pulled in the cost code, the category, and then the amount of the fee that I'm going to charge the project. All right. So this window, again, if you are, when you're doing your change orders and your change requests, if you're manually adding the same types of things to the bottom of the change order or the change request, instead of doing that on every single change request, take a look at maybe setting up the defaults here on the job itself on this change management screen. All right, so I have set up two jobs for us for our class. And this particular job is a contract job. I've also closed this job here. I have also set up a job that is non-contract. So let me do a find here. I'll show you here at the bottom. So I have I have two jobs for our class today. One, the job for the PJ class. This is a contract-based job, and this second one is a no contract job. The reason I have two is because I wanted to show you that you can enter contract amounts to a non-contract job within project management. So let me close out of here. Now, if you take a look at page 3 in your handout, under contract control, if you go down to enter miscellaneous worksheets, and we can use one of the views that has to do with contract amount, and we enter in our job that does not have a contract. It's a quick bill job. We'll get the message that we have original scheduled value on the grid, but it's going to be disabled because our billing level is set to job. So you have to enter out of the top part of the screen and then click on the job button, and there you will see a field for contract amount. So we can enter in what our original contract amount is going to be for this job. And once I save that and finish, if I take a look at that job over in job cost, and I take a look at the contract totals, there's my contract amount, my $2,500 that I just entered through a miscellaneous worksheet over in project management. Now, if I take a look at our job that is our PJ job, I set up a contract for it in contracts, and it has an original value of $4,000. We're going to take a look at that in just a second. And then I've pushed through an approved change of $1,360, and so I have a revised contract amount of $5,360. So if we switch back over here and take a look again at contract control, and this time go into contracts. So this brings up the CN module for you. If I go ahead and open this contract up, oops, where are you? There you are, right at the top. Okay. So on the contract totals here, you see that we've got the original amount, which is, it's updated from the two items here. I've got approved changes, and then my revised amount. So this matches what I have over in job cost. All right, so what I just wanted to show you then was that you can enter through project management, you can enter contract amounts, original contract amounts for quick bill jobs and contract jobs. And you can access the contract right here. Let me close out of here. Right here through contract control right at the top. Right. All right, so I want to point out a few things about estimates. So you can enter estimates multiple ways in Sage 300. You can import an estimate in either from an Excel spreadsheet that you've created, or if you have the Sage 300 estimating product, you can output a file from there and import that in to Sage 300. You can also manually enter an estimate either through job cost or through project management. What I want to point out to you is the Finalize button. If you have the full original estimate entered into the system, you should be marking that estimate as being finalized so that no one else can go in and add more to it. They should be adding to it with a change order so that you have different totals within the job cost master file, and you can separate this on your reports. You should always have a column for the original estimate, a column for any approved changes, and then a column for revised estimate. If you don't finalize the estimate and you keep adding your changes through the Enter Estimate program, you will never be able to tell the difference between the two. And I think that's important for project managers to be aware of how much, what the totals are for the change orders that are coming through. I'm going to go ahead and show you the screen and then how this, this updates over on the job cost side. This will be an automatic post to job cost. It's the Enter Estimates under contract control, and it brings up, it's the JC Enter Estimate screen. So here we can pull in our job number, pull in a cost code, and we'll just pull in this one here. Let me use a category that's not been used. Let's pull in equipment. Okay. Okay, and we'll go ahead and finish that. Okay. So this is just like you entered it directly into job cost. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the job. Under estimate totals, it actually added, I had 1,000 in there, so it bumped this up to 1,100. I'm sorry, down here under approved changes, and so now we're at 2,200. If we want to see that equipment, let's look at accumulation totals, and there's the $100 here under equipment. So even though we did this through project management, it did an automatic post to the job cost module, just like it would do if you were entering it directly in job cost. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is here, if we come in again through Enter Estimates, we are done with the original estimate to this job. After we enter the job number and enter, we can click this button here, Finalize Original Estimate. It's pre-filled our job. We say OK. That has actually marked the job. Let's see if I try to put something in here. It should have marked it already. Oops, but it's not. Let me cancel that line. This is what I'm looking for here. So you want to make sure that you re-enter the job number if you finalize it while you're on that job number, or it's going to let you put in one line. But this is the message that you should be seeing here, that this has been finalized. So it won't let you out of the job number field. Now, if you accidentally finalize, the only way that you can fix this or change it so that you can add more to the original entry is to come in here under Tools Options, turn on Audit Setup Activity, go into the job, go to the estimate totals, and uncheck Original Estimate Finalized. This field is system secured, but if you turn on Audit Setup Activity, you can uncheck the box. And once that's done, you can come back in and you should be able to enter more to the original estimate, which it let me do. All right. All right, so on the commitments setup, original commitment amounts. You can enter those in either through job cost or through project management. Now, if you're wanting to track this with reports inside project management, you need to do it there, not inside job cost, because inside project management, it will create document records for you so that you'll be able to look at the inquiries and the commitment reports through project management and get that information. If you do it on the job cost side, it's only creating records inside job cost. It's not creating them over in the document file within project management. So let me go back in here and show you that entering the commitments here at the top, and this is on page 6 in your handout, this looks exactly like setting this up in job cost. So the screen, if you're doing it in job cost now, the screen is identical, so there shouldn't be any learning curve here. Okay, so I've already set up a commitment here so that we can just go through some of the buttons and the tabs. But since I've already done a change order against this, you'll get this message. So once you have a commitment in the system and you have done at least one invoice or one commitment change order, you will not be able to make any changes to this window. Now, up until that point, you can come in here and make changes to the commitment until one of these two things happens. Okay, so on this window, very simple, you're putting in a commitment number, a vendor number, whether it's a subcontract or a purchase order, a date, retainage, and then you're filling in, this top line here was my original commitment for $500. I've got screenshots for you in your handout for all of the buttons. If this is a purchase order, you have access to the header, which is going to pull information to print at the top of the purchase order for you as far as ship to information, who ordered it, some date fields. There's also here a scope of work. There's a schedule button. This is all in your handout on pages 7 and 8. The insurance button is a little bit different than what's in your handout. This is the newer window where you've got 6 instead of 4 insurance areas. And remember, if you enter anything on this screen, this overrides the insurance information on the vendor. But it's only for this particular commitment. It doesn't write backwards to the vendor. So if you need to make a change to your vendor information, be sure that you go back to AP and make the change on the vendor itself. Don't put that change in here because the commitment does not write backwards to AP. There's some checklist information. There are, if you get down into the grid, you can look at some detail. You have to get down onto into the grid here. So there's item detail, again, that shows you retainage percentage. We can override that. This particular line is a pending change, so it's not actually updated into the totals. All right, so you can see item detail. I moved up a line, so I'm looking at the original line, and here's the information for it. So again, there's a $250 pending change on it, and it's still sitting at $500. I haven't done any invoicing against this at all. Now, notice that the retainage percent here is blank. It will use the retainage percent up here at the top of the grid, the overall 10%. This retainage percent is only if you are overriding each individual line and you want to put a different retainage percent on that line. Otherwise, leave it blank and it will use this retainage percent up here at the top. Scope is just for some text for reporting and the forms. Same with inclusions and exclusions. You can put information in there about what you want and don't want. and we can get that to print on the forms. Secondary vendors, the screen is newer than what's in your handout. Here's where you can lock in for joint check information and whether you want to be creating lien waivers. So there's a little bit more information in here. And if you want to record any pre-liens for this particular commitment, again, here's more information that you can record for reporting purposes. Down at the bottom, if you want to save the commitment, if this is brand new, it's going to ask you if you want to commit, and you say yes, it's the same as post. So it will mark the commitment as committed, and it will update the job cost master with totals. Down more at the bottom, totals. This is the overall for the entire commitment. And there's a bought out, excuse me. The bought out is for the category. So on each line, if you want to click the bought out, it's going to mark it that way. However, it only gives a warning. So if you enter another commitment to the same job, same cost code, same category, it'll give you a warning that it's already bought out. Do you want to continue? You can say yes or no. This particular check mark, there is a check mark at the category record level, is not sensitive to having to have audit setup activity turned on. So if you mark something as bought out by mistake, just go back into setup category, pull it up, and uncheck the box. The close commitment, that's used if you are, let's say the commitment is for $1,000 and you've been invoiced and you've paid $999. You're never going to get another invoice for that dollar. That commitment is going to continue to print on your commitment reports, status reports, because the system does not think it's complete. It'll only think it's complete if it's been invoiced for the exact same amount as the original, or as the commitment itself. So that's what close commitment does, is it marks or sets a flag on the commitment that it's done. And so then it will stop showing that commitment on your commitment status reports. Okay, let's cancel out of here. Let's go back and talk about change requests. And this is going to start on page 13 in your handout. So we have two different pricing methods as far as change requests and change orders are concerned. There's lump sum, which means that it's like you're doing progress bill type billing, and then there's time and material where you're doing like the cost-based types of billing. So it's going to depend on maybe your contract, or if this is a quick bill job, which pricing method you choose for that change request. And what this controls is actually what comes up on the grid. It controls the columns that you see, which we can modify those, and I'll show you that how when we get in. I'll show you how to do that when we get into back into the software. You can pull in and request quotes from vendors, so we can do stuff with that. We can also create change requests, not just in the change request window. We can actually do it from the change order screen, and we can also generate them from RFIs. So there's multiple ways to get information into the system. There's also an option to send something out to a vendor from a change request screen. All right, so let's jump back in and let's take a look then under contract control. We're going to start up here with change requests. Now, this is an optional thing. If if you're not putting stuff into the system until you actually want to record maybe an approved change order, this may be something that you decide that you don't need to do. It'll be up to you and your project managers as to how much detail do you want within the Sage 300 software, for backup documentation and to show other project managers or to show the owner of the project. It's going to depend on what kind of information you really want. All right, so for this change request, it's pre-filling with the job number that I've been working on. I'm going to describe this as a class request. Okay. It pre-fills with the system date. It pre-filled with me because that's where I'm set up on the job to receive this change request. The source number, the schedule impact, this is all for reporting. So, where did I get this request? Maybe I got it from an RFI. You can add more to this list with custom descriptions if you need to. And then if you want a number, you can. If you want to enter a schedule impact, meaning, add more time to the project, you can. You can type in the scope of work. We'll just put this in as web class again. Okay. All right, and then you've got a from you can change. If you want to add more people to whoever's going to receive this change request form, you can. All right, so this is kind of general static information about the change request. You have tabs down here at the bottom. If you click on the Detail tab, this is more reportable information that you may want to include. If you're sending this out and you're expecting some kind of an answer back, you can fill in a date. You can say how important this is. The reason this is pulling from custom descriptions, so we can change that. We can pull in who initiated it, and then as we get information back, we can put in the date that it's been approved, who gave that approval, and even record when the change request was completed. Okay. So again, this is all information that you can pull into reports and have for tracking within your project. Now, the other thing that's on here, over here on the side, it's pre-filled with our contract number, and it's done that because of the job number. If I want to add this change to an existing item, I've got 2 items here on the contract, but maybe I need to add another item to it. I can do that by just typing that in, and when I hit the Enter key, it says, it's not found. Do you want to add it? And I can say yes, and it brings up information for me that will be added over on the contract side. So I'm going to call this a change request. Let's call it that. And this is a progress bill, and it's already locked in the job, so I can say OK. Okay. I can even here lock in the spec section. So this pulls up the spec sections that are locked in on that job. Now, down below, we have more miscellaneous fields that can be anything you want them to be. You can change the descriptions of these within custom descriptions. Excuse me. Okay. So if you don't have a need for them, just ignore them. Come back to it later if you decide there is something else, some other type of a date, some other type of text, or a contact, or an amount that you want to track on this change request. Excuse me. All right, once you have this filled in, then go ahead and click on the Price/Cost Estimate tab at the bottom, and that brings up our grid. Okay. So this message is just telling us Again, this is based on, the items on the grid are based on this pricing method and the view that we've selected. Once you're comfortable with this, you can mark the box not to show the message anymore. Also notice down at the bottom, here are our markup fees and admin fees that we had set up on the job itself, on the Change Management tab. That's pre-filled for us. Okay, so if we're doing a price change on this first line, we can go ahead and click into the description area, and we'll just call this owner change. And let's see, we're going to say that this is a material change. We're going to up the price on this. We finally got something here for a bunch of money. Okay. Right, and that's popped the price down here into this price column here. So this is the owner change that we're going to do. We're going to increase the contract that we're going to be billing with our material now. And then I want to also, at the same time that I'm making a price change, I also want to do a cost estimate change. So I'm going to change my view. Because we can do both of these at the same time. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my insulation. And my insulation is actually going to cost me $20,000. That's what I think it's going to cost. So now I've got down at the bottom, if you're seeing here, it's actually pulled in my cost amount. It's adjusted my estimate with my fee. I'm adding in my admin fee, and then over here I've got my total price. It's added $100 again for my admin fee. Okay, so now that I have my change request in, I can go ahead and save that, and let's print it. Just do a print preview so that you can see what the form looks like. Okay. Now, this is showing us the owner change request. There isn't a form that prints out for the estimate. It'll show up in our detail, but this would be the owner change request that we have that you may want to print out and have the owner of the project sign before you actually turn this into a change or an approved change order. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of the change request. And now I'm going to come back under contract control, and I'm going to go to change orders. And we're going to turn that change request into an approved change order. So again, it's pre-filled with my job number. I'm going to give it a description here. Pre-filled with my the system date. If I need to send this to someone, I'm going to pick who I want to send this to. We'll send it to Tamara, and we'll say that it's from me. Okay. And the scheduled impact, this is going to add 6 months to the job. Okay. And if I want to, I can put in a revised completion date here. This is going to update over in job cost. So let's put that out there. Our status is approved. And let's go ahead, we're going to go ahead and use the button to select change requests. And this brings up the window that shows us the change requests that have not already been turned into change orders. So I had this $100 one from earlier that I haven't done yet, but let's do the one for the $25,000. So I'm going to OK that. And notice down at the bottom, it brings in the $25,000 total amount for the total price. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to save that. And when I do that, it's telling me that I haven't approved my estimates. So you can either do that this way. We'll say yes to that and approve it. Or you see this little button here that says Next Action. Okay, it's already been updated, so that's why it's grayed out. If I hadn't already done it, this would be an option available to me to go ahead and update the job estimate. All right, so now I can print this. We'll just do a print preview on that so that you can see. Okay, so this is what the approved change order looks like. And this would be the one that's going to go to the owner. So it shows us our original, any previous change orders, and then what the new contract amount is. Okay. Now this is one of the standard forms that Sage provides, so you can make modifications to that or create a brand new. Make a brand new form. Just be sure that you change PJ settings so that it uses that particular form. So let me close out of here. Let's go back over to job cost. Let's take a look at our job. Okay, so there's our approved. That includes the $20,000. So we now have a total of over $22,000 as our estimate. We look at the contract. Here's our approved changes. So now it's added the $25,000 to the approved changes area. So now our revised contract is over $30,000. If we come back into project management, go back into contracts, bring up our contract. We now have a third line here that we didn't have before. If we look at the contract totals, it shows us the new total, the $25,100. And if we take a look back up at the contract level, it's got the amounts here. Okay. All right, so it's updated. Project management has updated not only job cost, it's with the contract amount and an estimate. It's also updated the contract itself in CN. All right, let's take a look here. Commitment change orders. Again, you can do commitments and commitment change orders inside job cost. But again, remember, those records are only going to be in job cost. They won't be in project management. Also, you can use a change started out as a change request and turn it into a commitment change order, or you can go straight to commitment change order and create it there on the fly. So let's jump back in and take a look at the commitment change order screen. Okay, another message as far as the columns on the grid. So as soon as you're comfortable with this, you can check this box not to show the message anymore. All right, our job is pre-filled. I'm going to select our change order, our commitment that I've set up for the class. Give this a description. As soon as I enter out of the commitment field, it pulls up the next commitment change order number. I can give this a description. pulled in the vendor and the system date. If I want to lock in who I want to send this to, I can use the drop down. Notice that the people that or the items that are showing up here are the contacts that are on our job in setup jobs inside PJ. I can give this a description. I can say when this was signed. Again, this is for reporting purposes. Now, if you want this to, it defaults to approved. If you want to do this as pending, you can. If you're pulling a change request, I would say you're going to go straight to approved. The change request itself is kind of like a pending change order. So by the time you get this back and you're going into the commitment change order, you're probably going to leave this as a default of approved. And it's already marked down below to release to accounting, which means send this information over to job cost. And it's also marked to revise the commitment itself. Now down here on the bottom, you can use the button to select change requests, and this will show you if there are any change requests out there to approve, which at this point we don't have one. So here we can go ahead and just fill the grid in. So if this is not coming from a change request, we can do this just on the fly. And let me see here. I don't have a description there. Here, let's go with no change request. And then we're actually filling this in as we go along. And we'll say that this is going to be, we're going to do another we'll do another $100 here, and it's pre-filled here for us. Now, if we want to assign this to an item, we can actually pick where we want to assign this. Click OK, and that will fill. Actually, I'm going to delete this line. Delete that, yeah. And let's put that here. This is class. Okay, put $100 in here. Okay, so I did that a little wrong. So if I want to assign this to an existing line item on the commitment, click this button first, so that you can select the item and then you can fill in the information. If you want to create a brand new line item, we'll call this new line, and we'll go ahead and say that. And this is also $100. And we'll just put it there. Okay, notice it doesn't fill in a commitment item number. It's going to do that when we save this and it updates to job cost. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to save this and then close. We're sending this over as an approved change order. I can now come back into commitments, bring up my, yep, we know. All right, so there's the new line right here. Now notice on this window, it doesn't show you any amounts. The only amount that shows up here on this grid is the original amount. If you want to see what's been approved, you have to come down on the line, click on Item Detail, and that's where you're going to see the approved amount. So if I go up on this line, we should see Item Detail here. So I've still got a pending change out there for that particular line, but I've approved $100 here. So let's say OK. Now if I come down to the totals, so our original is $500. I've got pending changes out there of $350. I've got approved changes, so my revised contract now is $700. So now, I'll just go ahead and get out of here. If I come back to job cost and go ahead and take a look at that job, if I take a look at my cost totals tab, I see the same information. This is the same information that we saw on the commitment. So we have an original, we have pending still sitting out there of $350. We have approved changes, and we have a total. Now we can get back into PJ. As I mentioned before, we can actually create a change request for a commitment change order. And let me look for that. Let's see. It's right here. Let's see, I believe that's it. And so if we take a look at the detail, or actually let's look at this window here, the price cost. Okay, yes. And if we take a look at the vendor view, actually this is where I actually pulled that in. Okay. So what I'm trying to show you here is that you can create change requests for your commitments. Just use the vendor view right here. Close out of here. And then when you go into commitment change orders, we should be able to see them here. Oh, you need to put your commitment in there. Well, maybe I have that one completely filled out correctly. So let's go back over here to the change requests. And let's come in here. Actually, let's just do a new one. Okay, let's go to price. The one thing I did want to show you while I'm in here too, I had mentioned about the grid. If you right-click your cursor up on any of these column headings and go to Hide Show Columns, it shows you all of the columns you have available to you. Now notice that I don't have any categories listed in here. That's because I'm going to use the default out of PJ settings. So you don't have to pull in categories into your grid if you've got those categories filled in on the Change Management tab in PJ settings. Right, I'm going to go ahead and change this to vendor. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll do the same thing here. And actually, let me come over here and grab the commitment. Okay. Let's do another $150 here. Okay. And I should be able to save this, close, come back over here to a commitment change order. Yes. Let's grab the commitment one more time. There it is. So it's right here. Okay, so I can pull that in, say OK, and then I can approve this and it turns it into a commitment change order. So again, what I'm trying to show you is that change requests are optional, but they're good for document verification and for reporting and inquiry. But you can go straight to the change order screens and And actually, when you create without a change request, it actually does create a change request in the background. However, it's created at the same time that you do the change orders. So if you're looking to see what kind of requests are out there, you're not going to be able to see that unless you actually do create these change requests first. So in your handout, there are screenshots again that show entering the change request and then doing a change order. And then I've got screenshots in there that show you the result of what happens on which we did take a look at what happens on the commitment itself. So we've actually gone through this on the change orders here. So we've talked about what gets updated, pulling in a change request. We didn't talk about billable and internal. That's, billable is where you are you're sending something out to the owner of the project. So you're eventually going to bill them for this particular change. You can attach a transmittal to the change orders when you create them and email them out. And then I showed you the next action, which is updating the estimate. Okay, so that takes us through all of the options that you have under within project management under contract control. If you have project management up and running, I would recommend that you start doing a lot of these things under project management because, again, it creates those records in the PJ document file, and it also creates transactions there so that the reports in project management and the inquiries will have that information. Now, you will see that information over in job cost as well, because once you approve and you release to accounting, that information goes there as well. The idea is to have it in both places. All right, so we have a couple of minutes left. Are there any questions? Tina, has anybody typed in any questions?
No questions yet.
Okay. We'll wait a minute here to see if anybody thinks of any questions. I'll be happy to answer them for you now. Or if you'd like to email them into Tina, she can forward them to me, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have later too, if you think of something after we finish for the day.
Yeah, looks like we'll be waiting for emails, but definitely feel free to send them in.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us, and I hope to see you for our next session. We've actually got a session scheduled in October, on October 9th for the billing module. So if you would like to join us for that, that would be great. And then we will be sending information out here pretty soon about year-end training. So I hope to see you in those sessions as well. So thanks for joining us, and I'll see you soon. Bye.